So just to get started really quickly, fam, this is just a picture of the LA rally. It was beautiful. I wanted to congratulate all of the organizers who worked really hard in spite of all the attacks they got. I mean, across the board, they didn't even get that many attacks from right-wingers. They got attacks from Democrats. They got attacks from progressives who didn't like the speakers they chose, so they decided to trash and do everything they can to thwart this march. And I have to give accolades to the people like Sharif, Joy Marie, Elizabeth Meyer, all of these people that were working really hard. Ricky Rance, all of these people.
Love you, Ricky. Call me right away.
Sabby Sabs and their crew in Boston got interviewed by local news there. They wrote an article on it. I thought that was awesome. And, and a lot of these idiots were trying to say, oh, these marches are small. Look at how small they are. Well, guess what, guys? They wouldn't be small if you guys joined them, but you're too busy about caring about personalities than actually doing this. And this is the only thing that's going to get us anything at this point. So I want to first of all congratulate them for doing this. In spite of everything that happened, it was a great first step. I think it will grow if done like a way that's inclusive and
and
getting
LA
rid of...
was the only place where it was kind of like this, right? Because everywhere else,
we don't know. We haven't
national.
talked to
From what I've
everybody.
seen in DC and everything, looked pretty amazing. DC was looking good.
LA was the only place that had these stipulations that were thrust upon us at the very last minute, and of course, it's LA. You have a lot of virtue signaling, like neo-progressive, like white knighting here, like where it's like, oh my God, like you can't just do an event like that's inclusive. You have to throw in your freaking beliefs and your ideology in it. And so that's one of the things that I think, we know because we have been in that community for years. We have had activists stay with us. We have actually funded things. We have done like so many things with people. I'm not trying to throw it in their face, but like we fucking have stood by a lot of these people, and it's disgusting to instead be for them to be backing the smears that were created by establishment Democratic operative types.
Or just haters.
Instead of having our back. Because we have definitely had people's backs. We have people slept on our couches. We have done all of this
These
without...
are the people we started with in this fucking whole thing.
Without asking for anything in return, to be honest.
And really, to tell you the truth, fam, the reason why this show is so important is because it was a missed opportunity right now. And if you can't work with us, if you're if you're a progressive Democrat on the left, and you can't work with us, this independent-minded thinking people we are, you're never going to work with the right. And that tells me you don't want to work with the right. Well, they don't want to. And that's the problem. That's what
or an independent, or a libertarian. They don't want to work with any of them. You don't want to work with
anybody who has a different thought process than you, and that is really important to point out, because what happened in LA today was a missed opportunity. And there's some people right now who just don't understand it, and it's a shame fighting with them and arguing with them, but they need to understand what's going on. And if you can't work with us, how are you going to work with anybody? How are you going to work with anybody? You know what I'm saying? So if you think that you're just going to be able to stay in your own bubble and you're going to be able to get people to change their minds and get them to come to your side, you're wrong. There has to be some form of compromisation. This march started off as a non-partisan march where we were all getting together, uniting on the same goal, same common goal, without bringing in our personal ideology about anything else to the table. But, fam, I got to give it, and I got to tip my hat to the Predator class, because this move with the coronavirus, this COVID, is just, this was their checkmate move, man, because they really knew how to split people in half.
At least in America. Because in other countries, not just France,
like
and even in Israel, they're fighting against the oppression. In the UK, they're fighting against vaccine passports. They're fighting against authoritarian crackdowns. But here, we have people
supporting
that and like kicking people out for not taking it. So, did you want to start, Jonny? Okay.
Right, so I'm kind of writing an article, so I just want to say congrats to all the national organizers for organizing a nationwide event that most mainstream media outlets ignored. And the March in LA had a great showing of supporters for Medicare for All and some amazing speakers. However, the newest divide that the oligarchy and the predator class have bestowed upon us is coming into fruition right in our faces. Yes, it is. The March for Medicare for All had been planned since January, and we'd been in contact with organizers for at least that long, since January 4th and 5th Forced to Vote rally. The Twitter account had been announcing speakers nationwide for a couple months now, and we had been in contact with national organizers like Ricky Rance, and had been approved to be speakers in the LA event weeks before the official announcement. When the Twitter account announced this 2 days prior to the event on July 22nd, almost immediately the liberal Democrats and the G-offs were going off, and so that's basically the intro of that.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys, you can show the picture, Jonny, because I basically start off with that, right? Because as soon as their pictures were announced, the whole thing was, oh, these are anti-vaxxers. Particularly Pasta has been very vocal about the fact that he hasn't been vaccinated. And of course, that caused them to go after us. There's a G-Hive. Oh, they've jumped the shark. They've announced 2 speakers that promote anti-vax
and
stop the steal propaganda.
Ooh.
This is important because later on this comes back. And so then, this motherfucker who doesn't even live here, he's Canadian.
Yeah.
And he's in the algorithm. I swear that they help people who
boost.
all this guy, if you go to his videos on YouTube right now, all he talks is about Trump. Even though Trump hasn't been president of America for months now, all he does is talk about Trump. And he's shutting down a healthcare for all of it when he lives in Canada and has healthcare. Like, go fuck yourself. Are you serious? Okay. And he says anti-vax views shouldn't be tolerated at a Medicare for all event. So that was the start. There was so much more. Obviously, we're not going to put all of it. There was so much more just going after us, taking our footage from January 6th and saying, ooh, she's a Stop the Steal girl, when I went to cover it as a fucking journalist, and we were asking people questions, and we were filming what happened, educating people about elections, kind of trying to get to the bottom of what was happening. And we happened to be there, and our footage got stolen and used in an indictment and it was in the Washington Post. All these people stole our shit. So we were covering it as journalists. We weren't there like chanting Stop the Steal. Yeah. That's not what we were doing.
Because we're election integrity activists. We're not Stop the Steal. We were fighting for it. And in fact, some of the people we had arguments with this thing, we were fighting for their elections locally in California.
Right.
So we're not Stop the Steal people. We're election integrity activists. We believe in fair elections across the board. Sorry, fam.
Right. And so instead of speaking to us directly, though, longtime activists we've known began looking at these smears of us being anti this particular vaccine or anti this experimental vaccine and started getting concerned. They held an emergency meeting without several of the main organizers. One of the organizers was at a camping trip, and then they decided that they wanted new protocols. Okay, so the LA County apparently asked people to take more precautions because of the Delta variant. But again, this was up to the jurisdiction of whatever event person or whatever business. I have gone to I've gone to the gym, I've gone to restaurants. It's pretty much the same as it was before they even put this protocol because it's not enforced by the police. And there's not really a huge change because people, the economy in Los Angeles runs on restaurants and runs on bars and on people being outside, and people are sick and tired of having this whole idea that they have to lock down with all the new information coming in about Fauci, etc. So what happened is that organizer Betty Dumas began calling Pasta while I was in Florida and having dinner with my family and friends to ask you if you were vaccinated. So you can talk about that because I don't really know what happened.
Well, I said no. You know what I'm saying? And she asked, is Fiorella vaccinated? I said, you'll have to talk to Fiorella about that.
Right.
And really, to tell you the truth, I want to stop right here because this is mind-blowing to me that a lot of progressive Democrats or left progressives or whatever you want to call them just think it's so okay to ask people if they've been vaccinated or not. Like, this is not any of your business. This is between us and our doctor. I don't give a shit what mainstream media is telling you.
Does your husband take Viagra? Do you take, I don't know, hormones for your... I don't ask you that. Like, it's not this...
Yeah. Once again, this is supposed to be a nonpartisan march.
Yeah.
But, they're scared shitless.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's what they asked.
Right.
So then it came a situation where it's like, well, are you an anti-vaxxer? I said, no. I'm anti this vaccine. You're anti this vaccine? I'm like, yeah. And I said, well, why are you making this political? She goes, well, it's not political. I believe in science. That's the thing they always say. I believe in science. No, you don't believe in science. You believe in big pharma. You believe in the military-industrial complex. You believe in lying politicians and the mainstream media. Right. Because this is an experimental vaccine that was pushed forth with experimental measures because they suppressed information about alternative medicines, period.
Yep.
Now, whether you want to take it or not, that's your choice, and I have no problem with that. If you feel that you're just under so much pressure, you want your freedom, you want to take it, go ahead. But respect the decisions of the people who don't want to take it, who do want to look for alternative medicines. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that, and this shouldn't even come into play for a rally outside.
No,
whatsoever.
It was a rally outside. You could easily frame it, and this is what we were told by another organizer. It could easily be framed, hey, the Delta variant is spiking, so if you're vaxxed, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're not vaxxed, wear a mask. That's it. And we're going to do the honor system. And that's it. That's all you had to do. That's all everybody else did. But this person found out about pasta and wanted to put this whole other political thing on it. And then, of course, she called me. And then I'm not going to answer about pasta. But then she calmly began it started calmly, but then she began harassing me on the phone, asked me if I was vaccinated, which is, again, none of her business. I'm not going to tell you. It's none of your business unless I want to tell you. You know, and I said I was, you know, and I was on my way back to LA. I got to LA a day before the march. And so I said, I hope this isn't an issue with the fact that Craig isn't vaccinated yet, because I already talked to Pasta. That's his prerogative. This is his choice. I respect it, as we all should. And it is about that, and it is his prerogative. However, I have other people to consider. Are you vaxxed?
See, look at that. It's like just stepping over the shit, not even acknowledging that, and then doubling down and saying, well, are you vaxxed? Who the fuck are you? Like, what is this, Nazi freaking Germany over here and shit? I mean, ridiculous. Ridiculous that people can just go and ask somebody about that. Whatever happened to the progressives, my body, my choice? What happened to that?
It doesn't apply.
Oh, it doesn't apply to that because your ideology.
The greater good. Even though the information is pointing out to so many issues with this. So we're not going to get into that, but there's so many issues with this experimental vaccine. So she said, I cannot put people in jeopardy. That might not be your belief, but it is what most people believe. The nurses who I am taking advisement from, I moved through this process to make sure we secure health care for everyone. Craig did not tell me he has COVID, and I think this would have been something he might have shared with me when I spoke to him. He didn't have COVID. He had it months ago. We all did. So we have the antibodies.
Well, no. Chris Cuomo says they go away in 2.5 months, fam. Sorry.
Okay, well, Chris Cuomo is somebody you trust, right?
No, Don Lemon said it too.
Oh, Don Lemon. Okay, great.
Rachel Maddow.
Oh, they're the most trusted sources we have.
Let's
scientists
listen to
too.
them. Yeah.
Okay, so she said we are using a stake bed for a staging area. I said he can wear a mask then, because I didn't know you didn't even want to do that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I said so that people can be heard, and I said he doesn't have to be excluded. She said we have equipment that may be shared. Other organizers were telling me, hey, in Milwaukee, what we're doing is we're wiping the mic after every speaker. It's no big deal. Like, why couldn't they do that? No, it had to be this way. And I let her know it was unfair. And then again, it's always like, you're the selfish one, Fiorella. You're the bad person.
Listen to this shit.
If you choose to put 3.9 million Californians at risk to center yourself and millions of Americans across the country when we can make a real difference here, then choose yourself. This is about Medicare for all, not the Convo Couch, not you and not Craig. Craig and I had a respectful conversation. I see the dynamic here unfolding. I have Maria Estrada to think of. Even vaccinated is vulnerable. I have Jimmy Dore to consider. I have others to consider. Okay, so now she's throwing other people that weren't even a part of this whole discussion. And
yeah.
I have never been asked
to imply her fucking values, once and again, her ideologies. I can argue against all that fucking ideologies. And why would you trust the same people who lied to us this whole time to give us the remedy? It makes no fucking sense, right? Whatsoever. And the fact that they keep using these bullshit fucking lines, taking the mainstream media narrative and Big Pharma narrative, who they were supposedly fighting against for years, fam, and then running with it, is just beyond gullible. It's stupid.
So then she sent this without the consent of anybody else. And she messaged us this, and it was a link to this email. We are less than 24 hours away from the big day. It'll be a historic grassroots activism. We are honored to have you have agreed to speak and participate. In the last 24 hours, we have had to make some adjustments. This is Friday. This is literally less than 24 hours before the event. This should not affect your speaking time, but we have changed the end location just a few blocks north of north in Hollywood. No longer were they going to end at the park, which is fine. I had no problem with that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, the impulse is not under the best circumstances. Late yesterday, the LA County Public Health Department COVID alert was made, citing an increase in COVID cases, many of which are in the Hollywood area. Please see COVID-19 transmission rapidly rising, blah, 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 Delta variant. And so they put that link for the public health. And then our professional logistics team was able to make last minute changes to accommodate for the health and safety of the speakers, performers, and attendees. Due to the increase of COVID cases, we are now implementing additional safety protocols under the advice of trusted health professionals. We hope that you are able and willing to comply with these protocols to minimize any possible exposure to the virus. We understand these protocols may cause additional work on your part. However, we are confident that we will all meet the moment with thoughtfulness for not only our own personal safety, but the safety of others. We request that everyone speaking disclose whether they have received their full course of COVID vaccinations at least 14 days ago. If for some reason you have not been vaccinated, we ask that you provide proof of a negative COVID test. In order to be in compliance with the safety protocol, we ask that you answer and reply to this email advising us to whether you have been fully vaccinated at least 14 days ago or provide us with proof of the negative COVID test. Please respond by 7 p.m. tonight. So that was that. And she sent us this email and said, please read and return your response. Your speaking engagement is contingent on response. And I said, you know very well that people can't get a test right now on time for the March, right? And then she said, 2-hour rapid CVS, people in my business do it all the time. I had to take many tests for traveling to Peru. I had to take one to get there. I had to take one to get back. Guess what? Which one they wanted? They wanted the PCR test, guys. The PCR test has been found to not even be accurate. And this is what they wanted. So I know how long it takes. I went to CVS. It took 24 to 48 hours for me to get a result back. If you want a rapid test, it's almost $200 or more to take a rapid test. It's like $80 to $200 to get one. So by the way, no. And you want me to spend $200 now because all of a sudden this all started with pasta. Of course, then they had to expand it to everybody else. And she said, this is not the protocol that the team has put in place. We cannot make exceptions. I said, you're doing this to stop people from speaking. Because again, this wasn't early Friday. This was like in the afternoon Friday. There was no way. There was no way.
And this is local people going rogue, going against what the national organizer said to do. And, you know, they wanted me removed from the stage, in my personal opinion, because of my beliefs and stuff. And I guess it wasn't just about us in this situation and what we're going to go on and talk about. It was other people who they were trying to implement in there. And they wanted to implement their own mentality of that AB 1400 and all this other shit that we'll get into and stuff like that. But we need to look at the bigger picture here, guys. That's all I'm trying to say. So.
Okay. And other organizers, of course, were going to bat for us and told us Betty was acting rogue. She wasn't in charge at all, that she went behind the backs of everyone, including her teammates, that this was not approved, but she sent it anyway. And this is from an organizer. This is a source. I'm not going to reveal my sources here because I do not want them to get in trouble. I'm sorry, people are horrible. And F. Betty, we're all done with her. What can we do? She's in charge according to her. She's not. There are multiple lead organizers. So the things she was telling us were false. Then I spoke to another organizer to say, hey, we're on a call with another speaker because the other speaker wasn't vaxxed, and they were like, what are we going to do? We can't speak if we're not, because they started with pasta, but then they had to expand it to everybody because now it's a thing that they're saying, oh, it's because of the Delta variant. We really want you and pasta to speak. So then I spoke to this other organizer, and then I spoke to somebody else, and they said she doesn't have the power over everyone. She also contacted Jimmy Dore's producer behind everyone's back, trying to tell him what to say. They wanted them to speak on AB 1400. It's a bill, healthcare for all bill in California. Who's governor right now? Gavin Newsom. You think Gavin Newsom's going to give you healthcare? Okay, beside the point. Even if you believe in that, you want to speak on it, fine. Stop telling people what to fucking say. Yeah. We're not going to be told what to say and what not to say. I'm sorry. Right now this is Medicare for all. It's on a federal level. It's on the level of direct action, moving at the politicians, not begging politicians for scraps. That's not what this was about. And other organizers echoed that. So, you know, they said everyone's pissed at her. And like I said, I told her it was impossible. I told her she should pay for it, right? I said, because, well, if you want to pay for this rapid test, it's like at least, you know, it was like 80 to 200. And there was one at the airport. I think I remember it was about 200. And I said, you can pay for it. And then she said, please stop harassing me. And I'm like, you're the one that was harassing us, right? And so at that point you were upset because they started pulling up your parlor. They started pulling up, you know, how we were there on January 6th. They started calling you this right-winger, anti-vaxxer. And so, you know, it's to me, our views were the ones that got us here, right? And then this is what happened.
Yeah, I just said, unfortunately, I will no longer be speaking at the Medicare for All March. The local organizers, after asking me if I was vaccinated, demanded I wear a mask and take a COVID test. I refused. I will not be told when and what to do with my body. I support Medicare for all, not medical tyranny. And I know a lot of people came at me for saying, it's medical tyranny that you have to take a test and wear a mask. No, the whole picture is that they're bullying people into taking this vaccine. They're telling them, you can't speak here unless you are part of our tribe and you get your vaccine. You know what I'm saying? And it's all the people that they one time supposedly never trusted. Now they're going to believe them. It should be your body, your choice. That's it. And what's going on is disgusting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say, I think if they would have said, hey, you know, we need to wear a mask if in case, like, once you're around the speakers, but then you can take it off when you're speaking. If they would have approached it a different way, I think you would have been different. Yeah. You would have been open to it. But
they
it was
went
the
right
way
for the vaccination.
They
talk.
went right there
for the vaccination.
Are you vaxxed? Are you not vaccinated? That's what was the problem. Not the mask thing. Definitely, I have no problem wearing a mask. By the way, I don't care. I'm not going to die on that hill. I just don't. I won't. I'll tell you that right now. But I just, you know, for me, it was the way it was done, right? It was the way it was done. I think it was just...
Because there was other people then, too, of course, asking if you got vaxxed.
Right, exactly.
Calling me and say, is Fee vaxxed?
Yeah. So I said, this isn't okay. And she said, take some time to reflect and think about the bigger picture, how you can make a difference.
Who the hell is she?
This time, it might just be that you sacrifice promotion for the show. So now it's about promotion for the show, not about like how the fact that we're anti-censorship people. Duh, we're going to be against this. We're consistent in our beliefs. Like it doesn't change because it's COVID and it's a controversial topic and we're not going to talk about it. No, we're fucking consistent in everything we do. And so then Craig was harassed by Lauren Steiner, who's all the way in fucking North Carolina, and she was like, you know, she's been bashing the march simultaneously, talking about it, but also bashing it and saying we need to get rid of these people because they're problematic. And it's good that Nina Turner doesn't show because it will hurt her image to associate herself with these people who embrace Nazis, and that's so false. The organizers never embraced the Nazi. That was a fucking like operative who posted that picture and then did this to get people to cancel the march. And she said, I find myself in the position of defending you and Fee to the North Carolina Medicare for All coalition, who have seen your tweets about Medicare for All, vaccinations, and January 6th. Here we go again. It's our fucking beliefs and our fucking, like, even coverage of things.
This is the Paul, you got a lot of balls, though, right after.
Can you tell me one thing? Has Fee been fully vaxxed?
What the hell is wrong with people out there? Like, really?
She asked you this, not me.
But still, why would people even fucking think they have the nerve?
You don't have
it's
not your right
to ask this shit.
I don't have to tell you
shit. You
guys
are puppets
You're not
of
my
the
friend.
predator class, man. You guys are chumps.
And so after all of this, they had another meeting after Pasta was forced out, essentially. Let him know that we're holding an emergency meeting regarding testing. Please give us an hour. No, this isn't Betty. This is an organizer for Medicare for All, one of the LA organizers. And they're addressing this because a lot of people couldn't get the test, right? And so after this debacle, I said I supported Pasta, and nothing else was said until the next day. And I was told to disregard what Betty had asked once again. And again, she sent this email to speakers without approval of the LA team. Once again, she did this on her own.
When do we see this before, fam? When I have these little private meetings when nobody's around?
Yeah, the AOC event.
They make decisions and then they do. I mean, we've seen this shit. This is why this particular group really failed. This particular group, because all the people that were involved with this, not just Betty, the people that were involved, they failed, and they failed miserably. This was your chance to start building with bridges with people who think differently than you. And you still got stuck in your own ideology, and you forced it upon people, and you were sneaky about it. You went around national. You didn't give a shit what they had to say.
They attacked their own. There are other organizers that were trying to say, no, don't do this. They attacked their own. I know at least 2 people who quit helping the LA march because they were just disgusted by what was happening. And so it's not just us. That's what I'm saying. So there was a great organizer, Sharif. He even apologized to Pasta after this whole thing went down. You know, and for me personally, in the march, they apologized too in this Twitter thread, like, oh, you can speak somewhere else. I'm like, I would, but you know, here's the thing, Yo Pasta, I wish I could turn this around right now. It might be too late for that. I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I agree with you 100%. Fiorella brought this to my attention today. Would you want to speak at another location? So this is like, you know, we're not trashing Medicare for All march here.
Also, really important here, Sharif and Ricky Rance are the 2 that initiated this whole thing. And then more and more organizers started coming. And
inspired by what, Johnny?
Inspired by Force the Vote rally, which we went and covered and spoke at and nearly got arrested by Capitol Police. And that Jackson Hinkle organized, along with the Action for Assange.
Yeah, and by the way, the vast majority of the people here were trash-talking Jimmy Dore, were trash-talking Force the Vote, because it was focusing on the squad. And a lot of these people that were against us, guess what? They love the squad. They can't have enough of AOC and praising her and praising the squad. And they didn't like Force the Vote. You even said to one organizer, I'm not even going to mention force the vote. I would never say that to anybody. That props to you. You're so nice, but I would never fucking say that. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
Because I was telling them, I was like, I'm not gonna bring my own personal
no
politics
anti-masking.
No anti-masking talk. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to push my own ideology on there.
No,
I'm here to be part of the coalition of building Medicare for all with people on different sides of the aisle and different ideologies, because this is about something we all want together.
Yeah.
This is us versus Big Pharma, right? So I'm not going to mention force to vote. I'm not going to mention my ideology about masks. I'm not going to mention the COVID. I'm not going to mention that it came out of a lab. None of that shit. I'm going to talk about introducing people as we wanting Medicare for all for everybody who's out there suffering, who needs it desperately. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stay there, stay the course, and do it right. So
exactly. So and that's the thing. The fact that he was asked no anti-mask talk. We have never even like said anything like that.
Never.
Or I would never bring up vaccinations or any of that stuff on this thing. I wouldn't, because for me it's like I don't want to impose my beliefs on you. None of that stuff. Like, it's about Medicare for all. If you want to bring in Misty, we can now. Yeah, go ahead and bring her in.
Mindy Moneybags is here.
So I just wanted to say, the next day I didn't get any instructions. Everybody else was sent instructions. So I had to call my friend, the one that was supposed to be in charge, but she got like Betty started reaching out to people that she wasn't supposed to reach out to, and so I didn't even know where I was supposed to be exactly. Shid Batar also wasn't told where he was supposed to be. Tara Reid, this person didn't want Tara Reid to speak, didn't want Shahid to speak, didn't want us to speak. They wanted to torpedo us. This is what we learned last night by speaking to one of our organizer friends, national organizers. They wanted to get rid of all of us. They didn't want to put us on there.
Betty wanted to get rid of us.
Yes, yeah. Betty in particular, but she was supported by two other people that we thought were our friends, and they of course went along with her.
Yeah.
And so I get there and nobody's wearing a mask. I found out that two of the speakers weren't even vaxxed.
They didn't have to use the test either.
They didn't bring a test. No, everybody was like, what the hell is happening with pasta? Like, Jackson's like, what happened with pasta? What's going on with that? And like, I was like, dude, I don't know what the hell, like, and then we were talking and, all these things. And like, I get to the stage and she's like asking me to put on my mask. And I'm like, what? Like, she doesn't ask anybody else. Because I had a mask. I brought a mask because I don't have a problem, like I said. But I didn't see anybody else doing it. Except like one or two people. And then I was like, okay, so I'll just bring it down. And why did she single me out? Does she know the vaccination status of every person there? Clearly not. Right. And then she changed the order of the speakers. By the way, I was supposed to go second to last. She put me like third, and there was no time limit given, none at all. And then all of a sudden, she was like, oh, the police are coming. You all have to less time, but she didn't specify a time. And so
the police are the police were standing right off to the side watching shit.
Well, they had a permit. So I know that they had a permit. In fact, we learned last night that they had wasted money for hours of audio equipment that they didn't get to use, because it seems like Betty had wanted to rush speakers she didn't like to get to AB 1400 with politicians. And all the politicians that spoke earlier were some of the most corrupt, and we can go into that later, but they were some of the most corrupt politicians that have no place in this fucking march. They're not going to give you Medicare for all. They're anti-Medicare for all. And you had them speak. And because she wanted to get all those AB 1400 people and turn this into a fucking lukewarm, like, push for AB 1400, she cut everybody else's time. And she had obviously wanted to get me off. She was not happy I was there. And then Maria spoke the longest. And Jonny, you can go over the time in a minute, but I just wanted to bring Misty on and yeah.
It's Misty, or is it Mindy Moneybags is here with us, lady?
It's Putin's puppet.
Putin's puppet. Mindy Moneybags, how you doing over there?
I'm doing
Sarcasm,
very well, fam.
Stardust.
It's good to see you.
You got some volume?
Do I have some volume? Oh,
no,
hold on.
I can't hear you.
Hold on.
And I know you're loud.
I like your hair.
Yeah. Right. While you fix the audio, Mindy. I'm Misty.
Can you hear me now?
It's Mindy
Hello,
Moneybags.
hello, 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 hello.
All right, so Jonny, what do you got over here?
Still don't hear you, Misty. We'll let you know when we hear you.
Yeah, I still don't hear you. Is it? It's not you, right?
Oh, it could be me.
Oh, wait, hold on. It could be you. It's not you, it's me. There we go.
Is it me? Can you hear me now?
Turns off when there's no.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That's a bad thing. All right, check it.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Anybody?
No.
Bueller? No?
Make sure that speaker's on.
Hello?
Not coming out of internal.
Okay,
Hello?
well, Misty can be heard
Hey.
on the stream,
Oh, she
can hear me?
on the stream?
but cannot be heard through headphones.
You can be heard on the stream.
Oh, okay.
The stream hears you.
Hi, stream people. Party people.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Take over the show. There you go. Speak
If
to
you
the
don't know
kids.
that Misty Winston emceed the Medicare for All March in OH,
Io.
then now you know. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on. I heard you guys had an amazing rally yesterday. And
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome that you emceed it. Awesome. I saw some of the great pictures. Looked like you had a great turnout. You know what I'm saying? And
did.
yeah, why don't you? Do you want to wait for her to tell us about it, or should we? What should we do?
Give us a second.
Do you want me to get out and get back in? I don't know if Jonny can hear me.
Audio issues today.
Yeah.
They're zapping us from the inside. Deep state.
Hello? 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 Hello?
You want to just go with the internal speakers and we can hear them there?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yay!
Hey!
Hey!
Hi, fams.
Fam.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes, it was important for us to bring you on today because we collaborate a lot, we talk a lot, we have a lot of the same ideology. We understand what it's like to talk to people who think differently than us, and what happened to us is just a micro of the macro. What's going on across the country? I mean, we're not doing this here because we have a personal beef that we want to air out. We just see it as the bigger picture of people pushing their ideology, especially the progressive Democrats or the leftist progressives that really think it's okay to push their authoritarianism ways against other people who might think differently than us. And that is really, really bad because I think we're all of the notion that it's the oligarchs and us. So
they're sabotaging their own movement. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can't isolate yourself into your little safe space and so you can feel smugly superior to everybody else. You're not going to get anything done that way. And what happened to you guys was so blatantly obvious. I mean, the fact that they were making up new rules the day before the march because you guys were invited, and then the way that they shut Fee's mic off. Oh, you guys know I was pissed because as soon as she said the word Assange, all of a sudden it's "you're out of time, bitch," and I'm like, what is going on here? So yeah, the things that happened to you guys was really ridiculous, and it's really unfortunate that one organizer on a power trip can ruin an event for everybody. So that's
she had help too as well because she had people in her own corner, her own team sports over here that really went along with it because they feel that their ideology is the right one, so therefore they get to push it on you, and that's the problem right now. It's this cloak of virtueness, right? I'm right, you're
cloak
wrong.
Of virtuosity,
virtuosity, thank you. Is virtuousness is that a word? See, I don't
know.
Stuff.
Virtuous
so.
is a word, but virtueness, I'm not sure.
No, virtuosity.
It's my cloak of virtuosity. I made it up and I can't even get it right. But it's like the thought process that they think, and like I said, hats off, not hats off, but you got to look at the Predator class. You got to look at the CIA, all these agencies, whoever's pulling the levers. This move that they made with coronavirus is a checkmate move. It has really turned people against each other, and it is really sad that the same people that they were fighting against, they're now taking their marching orders from mainstream media, big pharma, and yes, the whole Assange thing. You made an amazing tweet. I should have put it in the folder. I did not. But you were saying something about, what were you saying about Assange when it comes to securing freedom of speech and free press?
Listen, the Assange thing impacts literally every other fight that we face. And I mentioned this. I was very fortunate, and the organizer for our event was Chris, and he was amazing. And I was encouraged heavily to speak about Assange. I was encouraged heavily to call the squad out. I was given, I had no restrictions whatsoever on what I was allowed to say, what I was allowed to talk about. They encouraged me, just do whatever you want. And Sharif is amazing. You guys spoke about him earlier. He's the one that brought me on board. And I said, you do realize that you're going to get pushback for me being involved in this. And he was like, I don't care. And I mean, he was on board. He knew what he was getting when he invited me to come. But Assange impacts literally everything else. Right now, the fact that, free speech and free press is under such direct threat. And along with that goes our right to protest. The fact that, Julian Assange is still being held in Belmarsh and all of these things, that impacts our ability to fight for Medicare for all. It impacts impacts our ability to fight for education, for the environment, for every other thing that we're facing. And so bringing it up in the context that Fee did, which is exactly what she was saying, you know, these people all censor us, they don't talk about Assange, and that was the exact right way to bring it up. It was the exact perfect way to make that point, because that is exactly what this is. It's this constant and direct threat against our First Amendment. And, you know, we can't fight for things effectively if we don't have press freedom. You're not going to be able to get Medicare for all if you can't get information out and, you know, obtain information, correct information. And they want complete narrative control. And that's what we're fighting against. And that's, you know, the point I've been making about Julian Assange for 2 years, you know, and all of the time I've been doing this activism as heavily as I have. That's what that is. That's what this threat is. And so, you know, it's really unfortunate that, you know, people don't see that.
Right, we got attacked just for, like, it wasn't even like, oh, you got censored. It was like, good, because why are you talking about Julian Assange? And I'll show you how that came into play later, guys. But like what does that have to do with Medicare for all? It has everything to do with Medicare for all.
Everything.
Yes. How do you not see that? I mean, if we don't, we're the only ones, independent media are the only ones covering Medicare for all marches. We're in front of the CNN building. And in fact, we were told to do this whole thing. There's a reason why independent media, all of us, were in front of the CNN building, because we were there for actions for Assange. We were there for fuck censorship. We were protesting the censorship of the things that we talk about. We talk about so many progressive things, and the mainstream media isn't talking about Medicare for all. So that was the whole point. Like, hey, if they're not going to be honest and talk about it, we're over here covering it. We're talking about it. This is why journalists like Julian Assange are important, because if we don't have the ability to speak about the things that are important to us and draw attention to that, we're never gonna get it. And so the fact that people can't comprehend that connection, to me, is a huge issue. Mm-hmm. And because they allow
the most frustrating thing that I deal with. It seriously is the most frustrating thing that I deal with, because to me it's so blatantly obvious that what's happening is that the predator class, the owner class, whatever you want to call them, the oligarchy, whatever nickname you have for them, they want complete narrative control. They don't want you to be able to rebut the things that they're putting out. They want to be able to fill you with propaganda, and you don't have any ability to challenge it whatsoever. That's what they're seeking here. That's why they're doing all of the demonetization and all of the deplatforming and all of this stuff. We have, 5 or 6 companies that control 90% of our media. They want that to be 100%. And that is, I hate to use the word fascism, because it gets thrown around a lot, but that is fascism. Yep. That is fascism. When they seek to control every means of information, they are seeking global control over information and journalism right now. Right now, that's happening. We have a whistleblower who is going to be tomorrow prosecuted and sentenced for exposing the drone program. The drone program, 90% of the people killed are civilians, murdered like untold numbers of people, and the only person who's in trouble for that right now is Daniel Hale. Yep. And so I think that's but they don't want you to know about it. Is anybody talking about it? Is anybody covering Daniel Hale? No, they're not. Yeah. But that's why, because they don't want you to know these things, and that's exactly what they're doing. That's why we can't get any coverage for Medicare for all. We can't get any coverage for any of the things that matter to us, because we don't have control over the narrative, and they're trying to shut us all down.
Yeah, and when it comes to Medicare for all, they can spew a different narrative, right? Like, put out the fears. Oh, it's these people want governmental control and stuff like that. This is bad or whatever and stuff like that. They suppress the narrative of why we should have Medicare for all down, and that's why it's so
Wendell
important.
Porter. There's a whistleblower, Wendell Porter. He was he used to essentially write propaganda for the health insurance companies. He came forward and admitted to what he did, and he's now trying to atone for his sins. But he literally, what he did for a living was write propaganda to misinform the American populace about the Canadian healthcare system. Yeah. That's what he did, and that's a huge part of the reason why we don't have Medicare for all in this country. Yeah. A lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resources were spent misinforming the American people about healthcare, and that's why Julian Assange matters, because that's what we're up against, the propaganda machine. That is what we're up against on every issue, and that's why that matters. And I don't know, it's really frustrating to me that I still have to keep explaining this to grown-ass adults.
Yeah, we are all Assange.
Yeah,
literally.
We are.
Yeah, we are all.
And it shouldn't be controversial to say his name. Yeah. We shouldn't be asked, why are you saying his name? I don't care if you believe the smears about Julian Assange. That's not what I'm there to discuss. I'm just simply there to talk about how everything is interconnected, and we need to stop thinking, oh, this is my issue. That's all of our issues depend on press freedom. Like, they all do, and that's what people need to understand as well.
You got cheers too when she first mentioned Julian Assange. People were cheering, like people were like, yeah, and I'm like, all right, here we go. We're getting
Same thing
heated up.
happened in Columbus too. It gave me hope. Same thing happened in Columbus. As soon as I mentioned Julian Assange, everybody started cheering. So I think that this is something that a lot of people are becoming more aware of. I think especially since the Siggy Thordarson admission where he fabricated his entire testimony.
Yep.
I think that really, I've seen like a floodgate since then. So that gives me a little bit of hope, but it's still really frustrating that I have to explain why Assange matters, you know?
So I wanted to play the part, Jonny, or you can play the whole thing, or we can play the part where...
Yeah. And after it, Jonny, then go back to your timestamps of people speaking so we can compare.
Okay, yeah, if you got it. Because do you have your speech, by the way, Misty? Did you clip it out?
I didn't. Oh, I don't know if anybody recorded it or not. Sleepy was going to help us live stream, but then his grandma died.
Yeah.
So I told him to just I told him just to get it. So
love.
I don't know if anybody recorded it or not. I'm sure somebody probably did.
Okay.
And I didn't write anything. Like I never write anything. I should, but I don't. I just like spitball. So.
Yeah, no. And like I Ohio looked really cool. I'm so glad you guys got to hang out and with Jesse. And
we had over 100 people, like in and out, which isn't bad for our first attempt at it.
Yeah.
A lot of people were the people who were shitting on the sizes of the rallies were cracking me up. First of all, y'all sat at home. You sat at home, like just shut the fuck up. But also imagine if the squad had tweeted about it just once, or if Bernie Sanders had tweeted about it just once. Imagine how much bigger those rallies would have been. You're mad at the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly.
Cory Bush showed up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, so we're gonna play it, and then I want you guys. Jonny has timestamps because a lot of people were saying that no, this was done to everybody, that you were tapped and all this stuff. No, dude, no, that's not what happened. We've shown you the background of everything that led up to,
which I totally agree with. She's one of the co-anchors for Convo Couch. Here is Fiorella Isabel.
It's really amazing to come full circle because in January, Jackson, myself, and a few others here today were at Force the Vote. And it took a lot of courage to come in the bitter cold of January and to be faced with so much hatred, not just by the right, but by the Democratic establishment and some faux aggressive leftists who refuse to call out their politicians, who refuse to hold them accountable. We have the squad who ran with working people's money, who ran and took every last cent that a lot of us had and didn't push for Medicare for all, who right now refuse to retweet any of the March events. Okay, we had one show up, Cory Bush, props to her for showing up in DC. But if you're gonna run, if you're gonna have a mask that says Medicare for all, if you're gonna have merch that says Medicare for all, and you're not gonna do a goddamn thing to actually push it, I have a problem with that because we have people dying every single day right now. One of the most memorable things I saw in that January was a young man wearing all his medical bills along his jacket. Those were all the bills that he had to pay because we don't have health care in this country. And if the government gave a damn about giving you health care, they would have done it at the very least during a pandemic. But they don't care. So the fight for health care doesn't end with Medicare for all. It is only the beginning. Because we cannot have these politicians in the government bring in big pharma to tell us everything we need to do. When did we start trusting every single politician and every single thing that came out of this big pharma? They need to get out. We the people need to write the legislation. We the people need to have our voice. And that's the reality because at the end of the day, when we were there on January 4th or 5th, fighting for Force the Vote, and there was also a Julian Assange protest, the reason we were all there was because we were censored. Because the mainstream media, like CNN right here, censors independent media. All of you here, independent media, are crucial because they don't talk about Medicare for all. They're propagandists for the state agencies. And that's why we're here today. That's why you see us here. And they were trying to censor us. We had more police surrounding us at Force the Vote and Julian Assange than they had police on January 6th. Cut off. Thank you guys.
Okay, so now you guys have heard the whole speech because, you know, people were clipping out parts of my speech, of course, and putting it out of context and saying, oh, she only talked about Julian Assange. You saw how much time I spent talking about Medicare for All.
Yeah.
And the squad. And of course, I'm criticizing people that some of these people like, you know, like the squad and blah, blah, blah. And all I said about January 6th was we had more police surrounding us at Force the Vote and at Assange, and Misty was there. We had more police surrounding us than there were on January 6th the next day when we were there covering it. That is a fact.
Yep.
That is a fact. There were more cops than there were protesters on the first day.
Yep. And they had the zip ties. They're ready to start getting us and rallying us up, whatnot and stuff. Jonny did make a really quick tweet over here talking about the times. Because first of all, if you're running an event, right? And I've emceed a lot of events, right? Even when I went to the situation with you guys for Assange, I just take the bullhorn and I start doing it. Nobody's going to do it. I'm going to do it. I love doing it. I can put my little points in between every speaker, kind of, you know, do what they do and kind of reiterate what they said or how I introduce somebody. I'll talk to their points or their strengths and stuff. But if somebody's talking a little bit long, you know, you just kind of say, hey, kind of wrap it up, but you let them wrap it up. You don't cut them off or do that shit whatsoever.
No.
Our good friend Steve Cox had the same fucking problems. They cut him off. They were trying to grab his microphone. This wasn't about staying on a schedule and making sure people had spoken a certain amount of time because they had to hurry or they were harassed by the police. This was about controlling their narrative of what they wanted. And the speakers that they didn't like, those are the ones they harassed, cut off, and didn't let finish. So I'm glad people like Steve Cox, who went to the stairs, he did his speech, and then he went home and he did his speech. And I even saw that you say, hey, man, come on, bitch, and say your speech too as well. I mean, the guy was so pissed off. They harassed this dude. And then when they started harassing that dude, that's when I was like, man, they're going to pull me once they find out like that I'm speaking because they're not going to like my ideology and it's going to go on. I felt it. That's why I was so scared. But the people they went after are the people they just don't agree with their ideology, period, plain and simple. And they wanted to push their people
from
forward.
Day one. Like from the minute that they asked him to come on, people started giving him shit. People started telling him, like they were trying to tell him that he couldn't come because somebody said that his social media was controversial. I'm like, I'm MC of Columbus. Have they seen my social media? This is such a bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they had Shahid there, which listen, I love Shahid Buttar, don't get me wrong, but that's not even his district. He could have been in San Francisco. Steve Cox had voters who were probably at that rally.
Yeah.
But you know, they wanted to cut him off. So
well, they weren't even happy that Shahid was talking here too, by the way.
Yeah.
They weren't even happy that Shahid was talking.
Accusations that were debunked by, you know, the DSA accusation. Yeah.
Really? People are still holding on to that shit?
Yeah.
And they didn't want Tara here either.
Yeah,
they didn't want her.
Because she's anti-Biden.
Jesus Christ.
Everybody should be fucking anti-Biden, especially at a Medicare for All rally. Are you kidding?
Nope.
Like, is this a conversation we really need to have?
They had establishment LA fucking people talking.
Yeah.
Little
anti-Medicare for All Democratic Party stooges were speaking first and after. And like that's what was made time for. And that's what's really irritating here because this is about Medicare for All, not about pushing your political Democratic Party bullshit like at this event. Like nobody else was pushing any other bullshit. We were just talking about Medicare for All and why it's important to support people who are talking about it. Like what the hell?
Yeah. And let me just say this much. The progressive left, especially in LA, they don't understand power. They don't understand it. They constantly let these people speak for them that have been fucking them over for years in the thought process that they're going to move them left or convince them to change their mind, not realizing who funds them and who they're working for. Like literally some of these people, who did a lot of this work over here for all giving groceries to poor people during this whole thing, they invited Jimmy Gomez to come on in and give them little fucking medals and little plaques and stuff like that. I'm like, people, are you fucking serious? The reason why we have these problems out here are people like Jimmy Gomez who were bought off by the state agencies. Get the fuck out of here.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
In Columbus, we didn't even ask. The only politicians that we asked to come were Nina Turner, because she should fucking be there, and Dennis Kucinich. And those are the only, like, we talked about it. Should we invite elected officials? And I'm like, no, none of them are fighting for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why should we give them an opportunity to have a campaign rally, essentially, a campaign event, when they're not fighting for this shit? They're just going to come and spew their platitudes. I'd rather not give them the platform. So, I mean, I knew LA was bad. Like, I've heard that LA is pretty bad as far as the organizing scene goes, and it's very cliquey, and it's very shit libby, but I didn't know it was that bad.
No, it's awful. And these people just don't get it. They still think that they're going to change the system from within. It's like me joining the mafia and trying to change within.
But if we're just nicer to them, then maybe they'll do what we want. We just have to be nicer.
Yeah. And I said that too. It's like, I'm not going to this march to ask and beg the establishment for Medicare for all. I'm going there to expose them for not giving it to us.
Yeah, and demand it.
Exactly.
Jonny, did you want to show your
show
tweet?
this here.
Yeah. So here's the time analysis I did, and this is the first image. This is the in order of speaking. Everybody that was their time. The total speaking time. So,
Johnny numbers.
So Victor was speaking first, and he was not tapped. He spoke for 3 minutes and 1 second. So basically, when I say they were not tapped, they were free to speak, and you know, they weren't rushed, basically. And his mic was not snatched out of his hand. Maria Estrada's talked for 3 minutes and 35 seconds, and then she was tapped at 3 minutes and 26 seconds, so she wrapped up in 10 seconds. No mic snatched out of her hand. Rick Overton was not tapped. He had a pretty short speech. It was a lovely poem and chant. It was 2 minutes and 27 seconds, and his mic was not snatched out of his hand. Fiorella spoke for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. She was tapped 2 minutes and 7 seconds into her speech, and yes, the mic was snatched out of her hand. Hinkle spoke for 2 minutes and 55 seconds, and was also tapped at 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Ron Placone spoke for 2 minutes 53 seconds, and was tapped at 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Jimmy Dore was not tapped, and he had a total speaking time of 3 minutes 7 seconds. And then Maria Estrada spoke for a second time, and spoke for a minute and 9 seconds, where she spoke about Miguel Santiago, who was a speaker.
Who was also a speaker.
She spoke shit about the establishment Democrats and mentioned Miguel Santiago, who was a speaker and spoke actually 4 minutes and 44 seconds.
Wow.
In the beginning of the march.
Almost 5 minutes.
So, I mean, first of all, only speaking for 3 minutes is really fucking ridiculous to impose on all the speakers, especially like people like who traveled to speak here.
Yeah.
Like Tara Reid, right? Yeah. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna spend all this money to come through and then speak for 3 minutes or something.
And she has a story to tell about her brother, and that's the kind of stories we want to hear as well.
Yeah.
Like,
and let's be honest too as well. They fucking did this to us and all the other people and cut their speaking down because they want to interject their people of their ideology so they can speak. All their AB 1400 people. They want to get those people there. And also insert themselves too as well to get chances to speak. So by doing so, they had to say that they had to cut everybody's time down when they didn't even go close to going overtime. They had extra time left on the clock. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's beyond ridiculous that they did this shit.
There are no time restrictions. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? The cops are going to start fucking...
You have permits.
Yeah, they have permits.
Yeah,
and you don't even...
permits.
You don't even
cops,
need
listen,
permits.
The cops aren't... In Columbus, the cops were like, just do whatever. We don't care. Like, you know, and listen, I don't like cops, but for the most part, for like a Medicare for All rally, they're not going to like cause you any problems.
Exactly.
As long as you're not, you know what I'm saying? This isn't like it's, you know, a police brutality march or something where they're going to be more on edge. It's just, it's ridiculous. And it was so obvious, you know, the way that you guys were treated just from jump, just from them freaking out about pasta and him not being vaccinated and all the smears that were going around on Twitter, and he's a right winger, and I'm so sick of hearing this bullshit. I'm so sick of people trying to say that y'all are stop the steal. They're election integrity activists. That's what they do. And if the election happened in the United States of America, it wasn't a legitimate election. That shouldn't be a controversial thing to say. It shouldn't be controversial for people to want that to be exposed, and for you know, people, election integrity activists, for want us to have free and fair elections. That shouldn't be a thing that people get pissy about. I'm sorry that it interrupts your whole like Donald Trump syndrome thing that you got going on, but fucking deal with it, because I'm tired of anybody who questions an election now is going to be seen as like some crazy right winger, and that's exactly what they wanted. And it's exactly funny, what they wanted.
I went back and forth with somebody. He's like, do you think that Donald Trump was cheated? And I just asked, do you think Bernie Sanders was cheated twice, 2016 and 2020? He's like, yeah, but what does that have to do? Was Donald Trump cheated? I'm like, do you understand your fucking mentality over here, brother?
It's the same election system, bozo.
I mean, yeah. Oh, and the Democrats, they get nice. They actually have a coming to Jesus moment, and they don't cheat for the general election. They only cheat in the primary, and also
both
not the fact
sides cheat. They cheat their
the establishment cheats.
off.
Yes.
I mean,
they work
Republicans
together.
use whatever the fuck it's called. I always call it crosstalk because of the TV show. But I mean, they have like their own little systems. They both use it. That's why neither side will call it out, because they both do it and they both want to continue to do it.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it's not, election integrity shouldn't be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a thing where like you're fighting amongst yourself. Everybody should want free and fair elections.
It should be nonpartisan.
Yeah, and I don't want to see progressives cry when their favorites get cheated again, because I'm just going to be like, where were you the last again? Like you're playing team sports.
And those are the people we are on record fighting for. We have video. We have everything fighting for grassroots candidates here in California.
Because you're consistent. People don't like when you're consistent, though, Pasta.
They don't.
Sorry.
They really hate that. They really hate that.
They don't. You
know,
know,
drives me crazy.
It's like, oh yeah, you do this for clicks and likes. Yeah, election integrity gets us clicks and likes.
I get
Challenging
that about
COVID
all the time.
It gets us demonetized. We lose money for talking about this shit.
Do you have any idea the amount of abuse I've taken over the past 2 years for being an Assange activist, and how many times I've had to hear that I support a rapist and a hacker and a terrorist and a traitor and all this.
And a guy working for the Russians.
If I was gonna choose something to grift off of, it wouldn't have been Julian fucking Assange.
No shit. Can you imagine if we just played ball, Mindy Moneybags? We would have been like, oh, AOC, don't be so rough. At least they share our same ideology. Give Biden a chance. We can still push him.
Somebody said something about that Fee's, this is just a grift or whatever. I'm like, dude, if Fee wanted to grift, she could very easily like kiss the ass of progressives, not talk about Julian Assange, toe the party line, and make things very easy for herself.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys could have it very easy. You could be like a little mini TYT running around here by now.
Exactly. And we'd be making money. Right now, they're pulling it away from us because we do talk about the things that they don't want other people to hear about.
Another thing I just wanted to point out. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a second image here. So it's just kind of the order of the least speaking time. So Rick Overton had a little, planned out chant and everything. So it only took 2 minutes and 27 seconds. So he was like the quickest one, and that was intentional, right? Fee was cut short. She was the least amount speaking time at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and she was prematurely tapped 2 minutes into her speech, basically. So, and then, the mic was snatched out of her hand. Takeaways, Fiorella was the only person who had the mic snatched away from them other than Steve Cox. For comparison, earlier in the event, Democrat Miguel Santiago took off his mask and spoke for 4 minutes and 40 seconds with no tap. Also, LACDP chair fascist Mark Gonzalez spoke freely for 3 minutes, no tap. It's clear only certain people were tapped/rushed to finish their speech at this event. Funny thing is, they rushed everything due to permits. You don't need a permit to protest in LA. Allowing Fee to finish her speech would have been wouldn't have been detrimental to anything. What, 2 more minutes, a minute or two? Like, come on, this is bad optics. But like we said on the stream, this event is not about us. I just wanted to lay out the facts and basically that we were targeted. And I think it was a great show and pretty decent event organized. I didn't like the time restrictions on speech, which was not made aware to us.
It wasn't made aware to anybody until they got there that day. And just real quick, I wanted to show proof from one of the organizers that we spoke to, because this is what the next one, Jonny, that she said we had a rolling street closure permit.
Yeah.
I overheard Michelle several times regarding what was going on with the stake bed, the moving states that we were all on. And not once did I hear her mention the cops were rushing them. If Betty hadn't crammed in all her AB 1400 jackasses, all of the other speakers would have had more than enough time for their speeches. And in fact, like I said, they had bought audio equipment and they had everything. They had paid for it already, and they had to pay for, they paid for extra, and they didn't have enough speakers. So everybody should have been able to finish their speech. Steve Cox, everybody, and without being rushed. And it was a manipulation of having these politicians speak longer and on behalf of this bill, when that wasn't what this whole event was about. And a lot of people are very upset. It's not us. It's other organizers on national and other organizers in LA. It's all the other people that are upset, and they will deal with it. But I don't, like I said, I love these organizers. Sharif, Ricky, they're amazing. Elizabeth, they're all amazing. And I love the hard work they did, and they were very apologetic, and they're awesome people. And I support this march. I support this organization.
Absolutely.
I don't support
the local shit.
The local shit. What happened? And there are close friends of us that we used to be friends with that are out there, you know, defending Betty because that's their friend, and I get it. I'm not gonna trash talk these people, you know, like that's fine.
Though.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate
because we agree on all this shit. We agree on Medicare for all. We agree on.
You don't have to smear other people in order to like still have a friend's back. Like you can, you know, just say this is an unfortunate. Maybe it was a misunderstanding or whatever. But just like I've seen some people come out and smear you guys, that I'm a little surprised that they're smearing you. And it's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know,
and you know, you're right. Like this whole wanting to talk about, you know, very specific bills. That's like, I don't have a problem with that. Like if you have like one speaker come up and mention that there's a bill in the state because, you know, that's a tool in the toolbox. But to have multiple speakers come up and try to push this thing when it's supposed to be about nationwide Medicare for all seems off message to me.
Yeah. And I don't want to necessarily go over Steve Cox's tweets. I don't think we need to, but you know, he did.
I'm going to have him on Bitch tomorrow. So.
Yeah, have him on Bitch tomorrow.
Or Wednesday.
And, you know, yeah, whatever. I mean,
yeah.
And, you know, I really want to tip my hat off to Joy because no matter what, new information comes to light, she'll reach a compromise. She's awesome like that. And she has been great. This whole process and stuff like that.
With all the attacks she's been getting.
Yeah. I mean, and even if she might have been wrong, she steered the ship right. You know, even her comments when it came to Cori Bush, she could have gone along just to get along. You know what I'm saying? But she didn't. She called it out for what it is.
So, I was surprised, to be honest with you, that I wasn't expecting that from her. To be honest,
either was I, and that's the thing. She always surprises me. So I got to tip my hat off to her.
Yeah.
For steering the ship right. I mean, she might not initially have the right ideology, but she'll reach a compromise and she'll do what's right. And she did do what's right. And I just want to say thank you, Joy, for everything you did in this march over here. You did do a great job. And this is what we experienced in LA has nothing to do with you. And yes, thank you so much for your words, especially holding Cori Bush accountable. So
yeah, that
was great.
Awesome.
I honestly was not expecting that at all. No. And I think that's something that's come out of this whole march and this whole event is that I think it's radicalized a few people a little bit harder, which is really, you love to see it.
Yeah.
I love to see it so much.
I love to see it.
It makes me so happy. And I think there are more people that think like we do. They just, you know, aren't vocal. And so I think it's important that we build show that we support you in what you're doing, and you are going to get backlash. I mean, look at all the backlash we all get daily. These people are stalkers. They hate watch our stream. I have literally, I caught somebody saying, I hate watch Convo Couch. Like, thank you.
No, there are some of these people who I swear they either have me on set on like the bell set so that every time I tweet they get a notification, or they just literally stalk my timeline because I will tweet and within 3 minutes there are screenshots and it's everywhere and everybody's complaining about how I'm so red brown and all this other crazy stuff. And I mean, y'all need a life. I know I say it all the time, but get a plant, do something productive.
A fake plant, please.
You know, Black in the Empire, Johnny. What do you say?
Oh, I love that guy.
I love that guy too. I want to have him on.
Sometimes I feel like I share a brain with him.
I know, me too. I'm like, stop it. Every tweet, I'm just like, holy shit.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna look a little stalkery because I retweet like everything he tweets, so I need to like.
I'm doing that right now. I'm retweeting it. Here we go. Black in the Empire. Johnny, what does he say?
He says, by the time they're done with you, you won't have to worry about COVID. They'll have you killing each other over masks and vaccines.
Thank you.
And this shit's fucking.
Dude, we cannot let these fucking people divide us like that, and that's exactly what they're doing. And you're right. I don't think it's the last checkmate move. I think it's one of the moves that they're making. I think they need something else because there's a lot of people who think like us. They're just not political, so we don't hear it from them. But there's a lot of people, like I said, my close friends who aren't even like political at all. They're like, yeah, we're not getting the vaccine, and I'm like, I have never even spoken to them about it. I'm like, why? They're like, well, because there's a lot of like, you know, lies around it. I don't trust anything that hasn't been, you know, experimented on or verified for years. Like, this has been rushed and all these things, like rational, logical conversations with people who aren't political. This isn't political. This is the fact that people have questions and they don't trust the government. Yeah. And that's what you get.
Like, I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. Like, I get the authoritarian left because that's what they do. But y'all, the pharmaceutical companies don't exactly, and listen, you cannot call me anti-vax. It's not possible. I literally made a list in 2015 of people that anti-vaxxers hate. So you cannot call me anti-vax. It's just not a thing. I'm not anti-vax.
Yeah.
I mean,
Neither
I
am
have
I.
a child with autism.
Neither
I've
am
been
I.
through the whole,
Yeah.
you know, pro-vax, anti-vax, like people trying to blame my kids' autism on vaccines and all this other dumb shit. I've been in the trenches of that fight before. I'm not anti-vax in any way, shape, or form. But these are pharmaceutical companies who do not have a good track record. Our government has already been busted lying to us about COVID and the, you know, response to it and all of that stuff numerous times.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're asking me to trust them and go inject myself and my children with something I have no idea if it's a legitimate thing or if it's safe or if it's, you know, I'm not doing that. And that doesn't make me a bad person. That means that I have healthy skepticism for people in power. And it's okay if you want to go get vaccinated. That's fine. I'm not begrudging anybody their own personal choice.
Absolutely.
But you don't get to ostracize me because I'm making a different choice.
Yes.
I am still safe when I'm out in public. We don't really go out much in like just to begin with. So don't come for me and act like I'm some kind of terrible person because I'm a little bit more skeptical than you are. That's ridiculous.
And the medical tyranny I'm talking about is also supported by the mainstream media and all these little freaking followers, these sheep that regurgitate and re-spit out these words about you have to do it for your part to help society. This is about looking out for one another. Your decisions will affect me.
Stop being selfish.
Yeah, stop being
The greater
selfish.
good.
Stop using your privilege.
Fuck you and your greater good. If they gave a shit about the greater good, you would have Medicare for all right now. They would be paying people to stay home. They would lock it down and they would pay everybody a boatload of money just to stay home. It's not about your health. This is about power and control.
Thank you.
And you know, that's not to say that COVID isn't like a real threat and that people aren't getting sick and that it, but stop. You're letting your lizard brain take over and they're using fear to manipulate your response to this. And you have to be mindful of that because they use fear against us constantly. It's the first thing that they use. That's the easiest tool in the toolbox for them to use.
And it's very effective.
And again, it's okay if you like want to go along and get the vaccine and all of that stuff. I honestly am not going to call you a sheep. I'm not doing that shit. I'm not out here to like try to get under your skin or trigger you or any of that. None of that stuff. But just, you know, do your own research, come to your own conclusion, and let other people do the same.
Yeah,
that's not asking that much.
And the thing about it is like I'm with you, Misty. I say, like, you know, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But I'm still mad at the conditions that were set by the predator class to force people into these decisions. You know, they just wanted to get their freedom back, or they wanted to keep their job, or they wanted to be able to travel. You know, I mean,
There's
like we're out here.
Coercion going on.
We're here in LA, literally having fights about like, oh, you're not vaxxed, you should be vaxxed, you can't be vaxxed, this and this and that. And in France, they're going crazy because there's vaccine passports and they're like going nuts. Like, where the hell are the minds of our people when it comes to this stuff?
We're so propagandized.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And this next clip I have, and Misty, I went on Get Your Shit Together, Flow News Day the other day after I got pulled from speaking. I got the boot. And I started off with thanking Steve Poikonen for getting me thrown off the stage because he was the main reason we got black-pilled on this whole situation. Andrew, your partner, had a little bit to do with it. Jason Burmis had a little bit to do with it. The Last American Vagabond, Whitney Webb. They all had a little bit to do with it. You know what I'm saying? But this asshole, Steve Poikonen,
motherfucker,
this mother, he got me thrown off the stage. He's got me kicked out of stuff. This is his goddamn fault. But on the show, towards the end, he made this rant that is my favorite rant of all time right now. Like, you know, like Fiorella probably has 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But Steve now just went to #1 with this rant, and I want you to listen to this because
it's great.
In a nutshell, this is what it's all about.
Here's the fucking thing, and I don't understand why all of the sudden the left doesn't understand this. I don't understand why half the fucking libertarians I talk to don't understand this. I don't understand why the right doesn't understand it. I don't understand why Democrats don't understand it. To a large extent, and I'm talking about voters here. I'm not talking about anyone in a position of perceived power. I'm talking about the actual fucking voters. There's no such fucking thing as right or left in this moment. There's not. It's gone. The fucking idea of nation states in the minds of the oligarchs that actually pull the levers of power. Nation states are gone.
Yeah.
What you guys are down here bickering about in terms of right and left, that's a fucking distraction. It is oligarchs and the rest of us.
Yeah.
And that fucking it. And until we can push the petty over to the side for a little bit, and fucking go handle that, they win. Every time you fucking devolve into some partisan bickering, they win. Every time you lash out at someone else because of a politically motivated in your mind stance, they win.
Yeah.
Every time. And I have never seen people trip over their own dicks like the fucking progressive left. You fucking make Trump voters look less gullible than you, and these are people who think Jesus Christ handpicked Donald Trump to run the country, and you, progressives, are so much more gullible. Get your shit together.
All right, that has about 3.3 thousand views. I think I've watched it 1,000 times myself, right? I mean, I love you, Steve. Thank you so much for saying that so eloquently. It's just awesome. I mean, it is.
This is what we've been talking about on Action for Assange for over 2 years.
Exactly.
The whole point of that movement was to be a post-partisan movement because this shit, none of that shit fucking matters. I've been saying this for years and years and years. On matters of war in Wall Street, we have one party. Everything else is used to keep the people divided. Never mind the man behind the curtain. They don't want you looking back there. They don't want you focused on Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading and all of that shit that's going on, and the fact that there's like a dozen unnamed billionaires that nobody knows who the fuck they are that really control everything, and they're the ones controlling the levers of power. None of that stuff matters. All of that, people get mad at me because I talk to libertarians. Like, oh, I can't believe you would talk to libertarians and you claim to be on the left. Are you kidding? You want to have an argument about economic theory? Are you fucking joking? Can we first deal with the fact that we have a system that's designed to kill us, and then we can fight about that shit? Because none of that shit matters until we deal with the actual problem, which is the fact that we live in an absolutely corrupted oligarchy. And this whole entire system that we live under is designed to kill us, and y'all want to like get pissy about economic theory and like some dumb shit. And I'm not saying that like some of these issues that they use to divide us aren't important. They are. Matters of abortion and race and all of those things, very important things that we are going to have to deal with, that we have disagreements on. We're going to have very difficult conversations about with people we don't agree. But we can't even begin to even almost deal with those issues until we fight the system that's killing everybody. Because that's just putting a Band-Aid on a dead body. It's dumb.
The fight is authoritarianism versus anti-authoritarianism versus anti-authoritarianism versus fascism is ultimately where we're at right now. Like, we have ever encroaching fascism. Everybody's a domestic violence
we live
extremist.
in a fascist state.
We do.
Fucking now.
We do.
Right now. And some of y'all be calling Fee and I fascist, and you voted for a fucking fascist. So you need to take a hard look in the mirror and figure your shit out, because I'm getting tired of it.
And that is why we had Mindy Moneybags on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, to look at the macro, not just the micro. Misty, we love you. Thank you so much.
Can you say some words about Daniel Hale? I know that he faces trial tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. So the sentencing tomorrow starts at, I believe, at 8 a.m. There's going to be a demonstration outside of the court. If you're in the D.C. area, please try to make it down. I was going to try to make it down. My mom's on vacation. It's a whole thing. So yeah, he's facing sentencing tomorrow. He's really getting railroaded. So he has already pled guilty to one charge. He has a total of 5. They're refusing to dismiss the other 4 until they see what sentence he gets. If they decide that it's an adequate enough sentence and that he's being punished harshly enough, then they might drop the other 4. If they don't think that he's gotten a harsh enough sentence, they're going to keep those hanging over his head so that they can make sure that he gets, the book thrown at him in any way whatsoever. And this is a guy who exposed, just for everybody who doesn't know, this is a guy who exposed the drone program. And so, 90% civilians are killed. And not only did he expose the drone program and the literal murder that our elected officials, specifically Barack Obama, were authorizing, he also exposed the watch list program and how people get put on that. And people have used his revelations to help get themselves off the no-fly list. So this is not just about the drone program. He's helped a lot of people with these revelations that he's come out with. Kevin Gostola has been doing an amazing job on reporting on this. We just did an interview with him on Facts on the Ground. And also Daniel Hale just released an 11-page letter. It's like 10.5 pages that he wrote to the judge who's presiding over his sentencing. You can find that on the dissenter.org if you want to go read it. It's a very heartbreaking letter. Daniel Hale's a very good dude. This is a guy who, once you get charged with the Espionage Act, it's kind of hard to find employment, right? right? It's not always easy to find a job. He managed to find a job as a dishwasher in a restaurant in DC and ended up getting fired. Why? Because he tried to unionize the staff. So that's the kind of guy that we're dealing with. He's a good dude. He exposed some of the worst, crimes that we've committed. It's literally playing a video game with somebody's life. It's life or death. They had like baseball card, like trading cards where they would decide who gets to live and die for the day. So this is a guy who definitely deserves your support. You can go to standwithDanielHale.com or org. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But he has like a support website where you can go, you can donate, you can sign a petition, all of those things. But we need to stand up for our truth tellers now more than ever. They are so crucial moving forward. Yep. So yeah, thanks for letting me mention that because of course, nobody's covering it.
Yeah, nobody's covering it. And I'm so happy you're doing the tweet storm and you're covering it. It's so important right now. We protect all whistleblowers, especially the ones, the wrong people are in jail. The wrong people are in jail. Barack Obama and all these warmongers, they deserve to be in jail. Not Daniel Hale, not Julian Assange. And again, we are all these people because we could all potentially land in their shoes. So thank you for bringing attention to that.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was good to see you.
No doubt. It's just funny that the people who are arguing over COVID vaccines aren't even paying attention to stuff like Daniel Hale. It's a shame. Thank you so much, Mindy Moneybags. You're the best.
Guys.
OH.
Bye,
See you later,
Johnny.
girl.
Bye.
Bye, guys.